Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're checking out a brand new offering that Arcturus sent over for me to check out. This is their MK1 CQB in 10-inch, and it's also in gray. We're going to be reviewing this today. Arcturus has been doing some really cool things to a lot of their airsoft guns lately, namely a new stock, some internal improvements, and just overall they're really solid, awesome guns. I took this out to Nighthawk Airsoft just the other day, plugged an 11.1 into it. I think it was a 14 milliamp hour, 25C or so. Didn't open it, didn't tune it, nothing. I just ran .32s through it, and dang. It's impressive. I was really pleased with it. Shot a nice 18 rounds a second or so on an 11.1, which is perfect. I ran through all these mid caps I had really fast. They're 130 round mid caps that they come with. They're also real caps. They've also got that cutoff lever in there, so if you want to do a 30 rounder instead of a 130 rounder, you can do that, but it's by pulling the base plate off and punching the pin out. It's cool these mags also come with an extended follower. That way they'll feed most, if not all, the BBs in the magazine. So real quick, let's talk about everything the gun comes with, then we'll get to the gun itself. Because the gun comes wired to Dean stock, you do get a Dean's to Mini adapter. Please just plug your battery into Dean's, it's way better. And also these are really nice Dean's connectors, not cheap ones as well. You get an Arcturus magnet to put on your fridge. This is actually kind of neat. I haven't seen this with an airsoft gun before. An Arcturus tactical coaster, I think this is. I'm probably gonna set my drinks on this because it looks like a coaster. A fairly decent instruction manual, covers everything you need to know about the airsoft gun to get it out and playing. A quality assurance card to make sure that the company actually tested it before they put it in a box and shipped it to you. This one shoots a nice 360 FPS with a .2. And lastly, it had me actually kind of laughing like a kid when I saw this. A whole sheet of stickers. This is unusual for an airsoft gun, but cool to get so many stickers with your airsoft gun. Let's start with the stock and move our way forward. This is the brand new Arcturus stock. I've been seeing this for a while. I've been really curious to check one out, so they finally put it on their airsoft guns. These have a nice kind of rubberized butt plate on the back. And what happens is you twist the knob on the back and the entire thing folds open. That way you've got a captive back piece here, something you can't lose, something I've had issues with other companies for a while. I'll be out in the field and find butt plates from various guns and I'm like, sorry kid, you lost the end of your gun there. Anyway, you open this up and you have a Dean's connector in here for your battery. Plenty of battery room in here, which is really nice. I was able to fit a 11.1 butterfly in here without any issue. Anything like a 9.6 volt nunchuck NIM battery will fit in here, as well as smaller stick batteries. Just in front of that, you've got a QD point you can attach your sling to on either side here. I actually use that quite a bit. I was able to just sling my gun from my neck, and it was very comfortable, so glad those are there. It is a retractable stock, so multiple positions. Just in front of that, you've got a sling plate here. You can attach just a regular clip sling on both sides and sling it if you need to. Also, this is a real style buffer tube, which goes into a polymer body, which is really neat because there's actually a metal insert in here, so it doesn't just strip out or break or anything like that. They really put a lot of thought into these guns. Moving on to the receiver of the gun, your airsoft gun is polymer for the most part. The receiver, the rail system on here, they're both polymer as well as the stock. Obviously metal buffer tube, which is really nice. Selector, nice and crisp, semi-full auto. Arcturus pistol grips I find are very comfortable. They've got kind of this beaver tail on the back. Feels good in the hand, can't complain. They also have the metal screw inserts on them, so your motor plate won't strip out or anything like that, like some other airsoft guns can do. What I really like about this, and a lot of Arcturus guns, if not most of their M4 series have them, it is a working functional bolt catch. So I'm gonna pull the charging handle back here. You'll see the fake bolt locks back. I can push the bolt release on the other side, and you'll notice it springs forward. But it is nice to have that fake bolt back while you're adjusting your hop up, so you don't have to keep pulling that charging handle back the whole time. This uses a 10-inch rail system on it. It is a polymer M-LOK rail. It's very comfortable and actually very secure. There are fins on either side of the rail that keep it rotated in the correct rotation to stay aligned with the receiver. So it is very much a concentric, almost flat top one-piece rail in effect. On the front of the handguard, there are about 2-inch long rail segments on the 9, 3, and 6 o'clock positions. So if you want to put your pec box or vertical grip or anything like that there, you can. Otherwise, there are M-LOK slots along the rest of the rail. You also get Arcturus's flip up front and rear sight with the gun as well. They are detached when you get the gun, but it comes with an Allen key to install them, so very easy. Pop them on, they're quick flip up, so if you want to just press the top or the sides They're very heavy springs under there, so they flip right up. The rear sight uses simply a windage adjustment and has 2 peep apertures. You can just flip one forward and you've got a larger aperture, flip it back, and you've got a smaller one. The front sight is also flip up. It's simply adjustable for elevation, so you've got your windage on your rear and your elevation on the front. Thankfully, the gun does come with a black metal flash hider. It doesn't come attached, so you do have to attach that yourself. It comes with a blaze orange plastic flash hider. It's required for the US shipping, unfortunately. You do have to use the grub screw that's in the orange flash hider on the metal one, so keep that around. All right, let's take the gun over to the tech table. I'm looking forward to looking at the internals because the way it performed, I think they're going to be pretty impressive. Then with the guts out of the AEG, namely the gearbox, motor, and the barrel and hop, I've also taken out the spring and spring guide here. The motor is a standard magnet motor, not a neodymium magnet motor. It's got a reasonable amount of torque, more than enough to pull the roughly M100 spring that's in there, and uses a D-type pinion. I've always been pretty impressed with Arcturus barrels. They're really nice hard steel, they're pretty smooth, and they're right about 6.02 millimeters internally. This one has a really nice crowning on it. Actually, it's rather deep and rather well done. The hop-up is a polymer rotary style hop-up, and it does have kind of a detent click there for at least most of the travel, but once it gets past about the halfway point or so, that detent seems to go away, which seems a little bit odd. I'm surprised it doesn't go all the way. And it does have a pretty hefty spring to press it against the gearbox and get a nice, fairly consistent air seal. The bucking it comes with is a pretty typical bucking, but it does have sort of an H contact with the BB where the mound is. So it has 2 points of contact, 2 fins, and the accuracy is reasonably good. The gearbox does use a quick change spring guide. The spring guide is polymer, except the fins on the side where it interfaces with the gearbox are metal. And it does use roughly an M100 spring. It was getting about 360 with a 2, and I was chroning it with 2.8, so we're looking at about 280 FPS with a 2.8. The gearbox shell is fairly robust. It does use 8mm bushings and bearings, the combination of the two. On the bevel, it has a bearing, and the other 2 gears, it uses a solid bushing. You can see on the front and the back of the cylinder window, there are these kind of dimples that actually give it a little more reinforcement, which is really nice. And it is radiused on both the front and the back of the cylinder window. And it does have a small window in the side here where you can trip the anti-reversal latch and uncycle your gearbox. At the end of the wiring assembly and housed in the buffer tube is a Dean's connector that comes stock with the gun. I didn't have to install this myself, which is awesome, and it's a really good quality connector too, which is a big plus. It also has a small MOSFET here. These little things are great. Didn't have any issues with it, didn't get very hot at all, and I could just run an 11.1 all day without an issue with it. Now we can go ahead and pull the gearbox open here. I've already removed the spring because it is a quick change spring system. Punch out the gear there. First, we'll look at the compression system here. The tappet plate itself is fairly rigid, so pretty typical there. The nozzle is a regular polymer nozzle, no O-ring in there or anything like that, so pretty basic. The cylinder is a chrome cylinder. It's a Type 2, so it has a port in there that's right about there for that 280mm barrel. Cylinder head is polymer and fits in the cylinder actually pretty nicely, so good seal there. It uses a steel tooth piston, which is really nice, so you get a whole rack there. Second to last tooth is removed, which I really like. That's a lot less to shave down if I want to get the AOE perfect. It's got speed cuts in the side there. The piston head is polymer and ported, and there are bearings behind it. As far as the air seal goes, it is actually perfect. No leakage whatsoever. Let's try it with the nozzle. And also the nozzle has one of those triangular cuts in the front, just for note. Despite the fact the nozzle doesn't have an O-ring, the air seal is still really good. There's maybe just a smidge of leakage, but it's so minimal. It's really close to perfect. I'd give the shimming on this gearbox an A-. For a stock Sportline-esque gun, it is really good. I'm very impressed with the shimming on it. The only change I did make was I moved 1.1mm shim, a really thin one, from the bottom of the bevel gear to the top, and everything spun pretty freely at that point. Before that, the gears seemed a little bit stiff for my liking. The other thing I did notice is when I actually pulled the gears out, the sector chip came right off the sector gear. It's probably a good idea to glue that in place. As far as lubrication on the internals, it was decent. Personally, I'd lubricate things a little bit more. The gear greasing was all right. It was definitely present on the bushings and the bearing there, which is nice. The O-rings, specifically the piston head, had a reasonable amount of lubricant on it. The piston seemed a little bit dry for my liking, same with the actual teeth on the gears. Now, my final thoughts on the Mark 1 CQB from Arcturus. This being a more budgety gun, I was amazed by the way it performed. I would take this out on the field stock untuned any day, and that's saying something. Most guns I'll open up, work on, do some upgrades, and tune it at least, but stock out of the box, I was really pleased with the way this worked. Very, very impressive. The new stocks from Arcturus I think are really awesome. This one's kind of almost a crane-esque stock, and I like the fact that the butt plate is retained and it folds open and it's very easy to access. You don't have to pull it off and potentially lose it on the field or anything like that. And it's got plenty of room in there as well, so very impressive. All the internals were solid. I'm happy this has a Dean's connector and a pretty solid MOSFET on there. Running this on an 11.1 volt on the field was almost too fun. It didn't have quite that insane rate of fire that, you know, some really nice custom performance builds have, but it was right at that point where it wasn't too much and it wasn't too little. Right around that 18 rounds per second was really, really solid. I found myself running through the mid-cap mags. I had 4 of these out there and I had high caps as a backup. I ran through the mid-caps like that. They were just gone. So with 180 players on the field that day, I ran high caps the rest of the day. The mid-caps are nice if you want to do indoor CQB or you're really conservative about your ammunition. That's a whole nother discussion. I just ran high caps for this thing for the most part, and it really, really needed them for the ammo. As far as accuracy goes, I didn't have a problem putting BBs through small windows in buildings or kind of between trees. Wasn't an issue at all, so the groupings were really, really solid. Overall, I'm going to give the CQB Mark 1 a 9 out of 10. For a stock gun out of the box at a really affordable price, I'll tell you, this thing is fantastic for the money. I think you guys will be very impressed with it. Some minor nitpicks on as far as like tuning and internals with the lubrication and such, but honestly, that's so minimal. I'm just going to take a point off for those. Take a look out for this at your local retailer, and if they don't have it, ask them to get one, because I tell you, these are very, very impressive, and you're not going to be disappointed. Thanks for watching, and thank you to Arcturus for sending this and all the other guns and parts out to me. This is a really cool gun. I'm looking forward to using it more, and I'll see you guys out in the field. Take care.